Let's just wait for 5 minutes for people to join in and then we can start. Okay, I think we should probably start and people will gradually join. Before we start the session, I had a very important announcement to make. So we'll be having giveaways every day during our sessions, and the amazing giveaway prizes include Amazon vouchers and amazing books. The giveaways are generously sponsored by Allen AI, Fueler, and Rosenfield Media. Stay tuned till the end of the sessions and fill out the feedback forms to participate in the giveaways. Uh, so let's just start the session. Hi everyone. Today we'll be having a session on how to build beautiful and user friendly products. The speaker for this session is Vaishnavi Dwivedi. A little something about Vaishnavi. She is the founder of Michi Spotlight. She's a full stack product designer. She's a Figma community advocate, a GitHub field expert, also the host of Coffee Break with Dwichi. I think that's a lot of achievements, and it's going to be super fun having a conversation with you we are going to be learning 1,000 things from you. Um, I think the stage is all yours, and we can start with the session now.
All right, thank you so much, Gaurika, and thank you for that introduction as well. Hi, everyone, I'm Vaishnavi Dwivedi, and yeah, like I'm excited for today's session. So, just to give you all a little bit of a context, in this session, we'll be focusing more on building, like the topic suggests, building beautiful user friendly products. And what I mean by that is basically becoming a UX designer. Like what a UX designer does and what exactly is UI UX. What is the difference between graphic designing and UI UX? Like how do you inculcate these things and why is UX design important? And like how do these things fit in with the grand scheme of things, which as you all may know that you all must be like have some sort of exposure to development and building projects and stuff using code, but how to actually make it user friendly and and also simultaneously make sure that it looks up to the mark and is able to a user is able to use such products easily. So if you all have, first of all, like if you all have any sort of doubts or questions, make sure that you put them on the in the comments in the live chat, so that we can like sort of get to them, as soon as they come. And yeah, like I would love to really like help you all understand more about UX, and just like be able to build great stuff with this, using the knowledge that you get out of this workshop. So yeah, I really hope that this will be helpful. And yeah, with that, let's get started. I see a lot of people in the live chat as well who are very excited, and thank you so much for joining and taking out time. And yeah, we'll get started now. So yeah, like as the topic suggests, we'll be sort of looking into building beautiful and user friendly products. So let's just get a bit into it, and like let's just sort of understand what the agenda is here. So some of the things that we'll be covering today, I think I've already mentioned some of the stuff. A lot of people are confused between graphic design and UX design, and then a lot of people are confused that, okay, what is UI and what is UX? What is the difference? How, what, which one do I choose? A lot of people ask this question, and these are just questions that people ask. I'm not saying whether these questions are right or wrong, but just in general, like these are some of the questions that I get. So I'm just sort of I've just sort of framed this workshop around the most commonly asked questions when it comes to UI, UX, and just in general, like building user friendly products. So yeah, that's that. And like how to get started with UX, what are some of the things that you can do, what are some of I think a lot of things I've not mentioned in this agenda. So and like some of the things that I have mentioned but I won't be covering right now in this session, but obviously you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and like we can like just sort of connect. And if you have any questions, you can like let me know in the chat as well as anywhere, if that's what you feel comfortable with. So yeah, essentially why UX is important, how to get started, and then I'll talk a little bit about the 100 days of UX program. And like I started that program under Michi Spotlight, which is a community experience that I've been building. And like I'll just talk a little bit more about that as well, so that if you all feel that this is something that you want to do, and you're serious about it, so you can like get started with this. So yeah, just a little bit more about myself. I'm Vaishnavi, also known as Dwichi. Dwichi is like sort of an alias, and you can find me with this username on Instagram, Twitter, and even on LinkedIn. So yeah, like that's me. And like I said, I've been building a community experience called Michi Spotlight. And like I'm a Figma community advocate, which is why I feel that I'm sort of competent enough to be taking the session. Like I've been involved in the design community for a while. I've taken a lot of such workshops before. So yeah, like just trying and iterating, and like just learning from you all as well, and helping the developer community be a bit more aware about UX. And I was a former developer student club lead as well, at my campus, and a GitHub campus expert. Now I'm a GitHub field expert in India. So yeah, if you are interested in that program, feel free to reach out to me as well. And professionally, I'm working currently as a developer advocate at Scalar Academy and a community manager at DYDX Foundation. So there's just like a little bit about myself. Don't get too overwhelmed or intimidated or anything. I don't do everything at once. Just like whenever everything I just prioritize. So don't worry about it. But yeah, let's dive deeper into the session. A lot about me and stuff. But yeah, just to sort of give you some context about who is actually teaching you or like guiding you in this. So yeah, let's get started then. So the first question that most people ask me is that, what is the difference between graphic designing and UI UX designing? And literally the nation wants to know, because a lot of people are confused between the two. When I ask someone, like, if they are into UI UX designing, they're like, yeah, I am into UI UX designing, I use Photoshop to do it. So yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of people, they get confused between the two, and usually people you just use design as a sort of an umbrella term to cover both of these two, which is all right as well. But I mean, honestly, it's good to have some sort of distinction, because both graphic designers and UI UX designers need to have different kinds of qualities, and they have, like, they have to do more stuff. So just to sort of dive deeper into that, a graphic designer is more pixel focused, and what that means is they focus more on the aesthetics, the colors, the visual effect, and the impact. So their primary goal is to create great aesthetics, so that it has to pop and it has to look really good. The kind of stuff that you see on social media, like posters and even hoardings and things like that. When you are traveling on the flyover, you might see a lot of banners and hoardings and stuff. All of that is the work of a graphic designer, and their primary goal is to create visually beautiful and aesthetic graphics. Graphics can also be used in UX and UI designing. So basically, if you open a mobile application, you might see the logo. So let's say if you have opened Instagram or something. So the Instagram logo must have been created by a graphic designer. And although illustrations that you see on certain websites and stuff, those are created by graphic designers. Whereas UX designers are more user focused. So their primary goal is to solve users' problems. So the like usually a UX designer is more focused towards building mobile and web applications primarily, but like there are also like other types of OSs, like for iPads and watches, and like now the ecosystem has been growing so much, so that so the UX designer also focuses on all kinds of things that are sort of associated with a user, right, with a person who is using an application or interacting with a software. So a UX designer is responsible for creating that experience and enhancing that experience. I hope that sort of clears the understanding, like, for you all in this. And if you have any questions related to the difference between graphic design and UX design, please let me know. Okay. I mean, don't shy away or anything. I'll be very, very happy to answer all your questions. Now, moving on, just to sort of understand a little bit deeper about UI UX. A lot of people use this word, like, just throw around this word like UI UX, UX design, so many different things that are like, happening here, and people say different things. So let's just understand the difference, and basically like how UI and UX design are sort of related, and what exactly these two things entail, right, and what exactly is the difference between the two. So UX is basically user experience. Okay, I've highlighted this over here. Like the X comes from the experience, right? So UX is the user experience, and so basically, in user experience, the main basic question that you ask as a UX designer, or just as while you're evaluating a user experience, is how would the user feel while using the product, right? Would they feel positive, negative, neutral? I mean, obviously, it's a very, very sort of vague umbrella question that covers like a lot of stuff. Okay. We often underestimate UX and UI, but there's just a lot of stuff that is inside these things, and there's a lot of thought that goes into, like, even the minutest of things, and I will like go deeper into it throughout the workshop. So just sort of like give you an idea, the user experience is how you feel while using the product, and UI is user interface. So user interface usually deals with the question that how would the product look to the user. So when let's just say that you are you use a lot of Twitter, right? When you open Twitter, what you see is basically the UI of the of Twitter, which was created by the the UI designers and then coded up by the developers and then deployed by DevOps engineers. A lot of people are involved in the process, but essentially, like, the UI is essentially how the application looks. But the user experience is when you are using Twitter, when you are composing a tweet and tweeting it, or just in general, checking your notifications, whether the response time is, good enough. When you click on tweet, how much time does it take to tweet, right? That also is a lot of, a part of the user experience. So I mean, these are just some of the things that we usually don't consider as, let's say, even developers or even as just users of these applications. So yeah, this is what the difference between the two is and what exactly they mean. And here's a meme of sort, or like an example of sort, of how you can sort of distinguish between the two. So UI might look as if it's really, really good, and it has good colors and it has a lot of good stuff going on, but the user experience might actually be very bad. Okay, because you can never predict the user experience, other than, like, by giving you need to make sure that the UI is given to a user and they are using the UI to understand how the user experience will be, right? So only the user is essentially the person who is able to sort of gauge what kind of UX does this app or does this software have. So yeah, this is essentially the difference. So I hope that this is clear and you're able to understand this. I think there's a question from Akriti. She's asking, can UI be more complex form of graphic designing? I mean, I don't think so, because graphic designing could itself be very complex at times. Okay, I mean, UI design, in my opinion, is quite simpler. At least, because UX, the graphic designing could be very, very difficult at times. It could be like, it could be dealing with tools like Photoshop, or just in general, like, you'll have to create freehand stuff. So honestly, you can't say that it's a complex version, or UX is a complex version of graphic design. Graphic design is completely different than UX design. Okay, not completely, but like, there are certain aspects that overlap at times. The visual aspect definitely overlaps at times, but in UX design, you have to focus more on the user and not just the aesthetics. You don't have to focus on just it being pretty. You'll have to focus on whether it actually solves the user's problems, whether if a application obviously is made for certain purpose, right? If you made a game, maybe it has a purpose, right? So that sort of purpose should be solved, and it should be solved smoothly. That is the purpose of thinking about the UX, right? So yeah, I mean, that's sort of how this works. Yeah.
I think we also had a question from Abhishri Verma. She
Yeah.
says in hackathons, most of the focus is on development, and people prefer tech, people who are good at tech over someone who's good with UI and UX. So, how can someone who is into UI UX get into hackathons?
Sure, sure. So I will get to this question very, very soon, because the thing is that, like, I have this in store in the workshop presentation. So I'll get to how a UI UX person can get into a hackathons, and actually, I mean, you'll find this answer quite insightful, I hope. So there's another question though, which we can take right now. Can we or should we prioritize UI over UX, or both need to go hand in hand? Yes, both need to go hand in hand. See, the thing is now that um, it depends on your use case as well at times, whether, so your UI can be a little bit not, not that pretty, but it has to have a good user experience, because a user experience also is determined by, like, user experience, the impact of user experience is a lot on the business, or like whatever it is that you're trying to do with the product, right? So I would say that UX is definitely very, very important, but UI, the visual aspect of it, is important as well. And to be honest, UX is usually an umbrella term, and UI is just a part of UX. Usually, that is how people perceive UX, because UX is like a very huge field and it has a lot of things inside of it. And UI is like a small part of UX, and it is like very important as well. So I would say that is, they have to go hand in hand, because only then you'll be able to create a production ready, user friendly product. All right, so there's another question. So, can we say that the performance of a product has an effect on the UX? Yes, that is correct. And I would say that, we'll explore this deeply once we, go through the presentation of this workshop. Um, we'll understand how this is important, because even the backend that has been created by a developer impacts the entire user experience. So if you, like I said, if you click on tweet, and it's not tweeting only, usually that is a backend experience, right? Because the APIs have to respond, only then they will, like, it will appear that okay, the tweet has been posted, or you can see the tweet on your feed. So that is a part of backend, and the response time again is a big part of UX. So I would say that backend is definitely a big aspect of it in the entire user experience. But as a UX designer, you don't need to worry about those things, because obviously, like, that is like a little bit of a nitty gritty that the developers have to take care of. But as a UX designer, you have to take care of other things, which is the usually the visual part, as well as trying to understand the user's needs, and, like, how you want to inculcate them into the software. So I think that is something that you need to understand. For now, I hope that sort of answered your question as well. A better UI UX will increase your chances to win for the hackathon. Yes, Ashwin is right. I will get to the hackathon thing in just a bit. Can we learn the basics of UI UX in time for Devcation, Hack and Solve to enhance our product? You can do that. I will, in the workshop, I will also cover how you can get started with UX. Although it does take a lot of time and practice to, hone your skills and be good at, designing good stuff. I would say that, it will need some practice, but as long as, if you look at other people's designs, or if you look for inspiration on different websites, there are a lot of websites where people post their designs. So if you look for inspiration, you will definitely find a lot of really good looking applications which can inspire your current solution for your hackathon. So I would say it is definitely possible. Can we participate in open source with UI UX? You can do that. You can do that. A good way to participate in open source using UI UX is that, usually in front end projects, you can volunteer to improve the UI of the product that you're building. So let's just assume that, there's an open source project that is built on React or something. So you can, if it's a website, you can create the wireframes for a website, like how the website is going to look, so that it will be easier for the developers to, just sort of post their design, like just code the design. So what happens is that in open source, a lot of inconsistencies are there. If if there's not a if there's like no reference for the developers to create their UI. So I would say that, UI UX is like, a very largely untapped space within open source itself. And you, like, especially in projects that have, like, that have a front end or something like that. So I would say that, you can definitely do that. The first step to being able to, like, contribute as a UI UX designer to open source would be contacting the maintainers and just like having a conversation with them, trying to understand their vision of what they're trying to build, and then just trying to craft something based on that. So I would say that, you'll have to work closely with the people who are, passionate about building this, and then you'll have a good idea of how you want to proceed. So I would say that, you can probably go with this approach. Can you please share some resources? I will do that towards the end of the session. Is it mandatory for UX designers to learn front end technologies? I will get to this as well. So just give me like we'll quickly cover all of this, don't worry about it. So let's just first start with why UX is important. And the hint is that it is a broad field, right? Like I said, it's a very broad field. It's used as a UX is used as an umbrella term for a lot of different types of roles and stuff, right? And why is UX design important? So the first thing is obviously the usability. So you might have sort of considered this like during a hackathon while you're also like building a app, let's say, okay, and you give it to your friend. Obviously, your friend might feel that okay, at times they might not be able to like use it properly because they are so used to using applications like Twitter and Instagram and like all the really well designed applications on on their phone, that if you send them like an application that you just created during a hackathon within 36 hours or something, obviously they might feel that okay, this is not that usable. So usability is a very big aspect of UX design. So usability is essentially whether or not you're able to use the application that you have built, and more importantly, like whether it is bringing some value to me. I mean, just because you can click the button and it's showing some sort of response doesn't mean that it is usable. Usability is more about being able to derive value out of the actions that you are performing on the software that you're building, right? On the software that you have given to the user. So let's just say that if you are using Instagram, then the value that you want to get out as a user by posting a picture on Instagram is maybe connect with your friends, or just like keep your followers posted. So that kind of value should be derived, and that is something that UX design focuses on primarily. And then there's a customer experience. So like if you're building a startup or something, usually startups especially in their early stage, it's more about word of mouth, right? So when you're using an app or something, like if they like the user experience of the application, only then they will then they will be likely to recommend it to other people. So the user experience as a part of a product built by a startup is a very very crucial aspect, because if the user experience is not good, they will probably not return to your application. If it's very difficult to use your app, then obviously they won't come back to it. So these things are very important to consider, and UX design takes care of it. And now coming to hackathons, right? Even the previous question. Now let's get to that question about hackathons. I'm not able to find it, but if we can like pull it up, that'll be good. Right. So how can a UI UX person get into a hackathon, right? So basically, usually in hackathons there is a prize, separate track prize for the best UX or something, like the best designed project. So either yeah, like you can be a part of that, but usually see in a hackathon, a hackathon is not just for developers. A hackathon team should be holistic. Um, so basically, if you have built a very nice project and it works very amazingly, and but it's not designed properly, and it doesn't work very good, if you just give it to some random person, they won't be able to use it on their own. You'll have to guide them every step of the way. Or it doesn't look that nice, or just in general, while you're presenting it to the judges, or like during the like after the hackathon, when you're presenting it to a mentor or a judges, you're not able to like explain what it does, or just in general. So you need people for doing all of these things, right? People who can create your hackathon pitch and presentation and video and demo and everything. And another person, like obviously people, front end developers, back end developers, and then people who can like who understand product and all of these things, so that they can like pitch your project very nicely. And one person who can design the UI of whatever it is that you're building. So if you focus a lot on UI UX, then as a UI UX designer, you will be able to, like, contribute significantly for the front end developer, because you will be saving a lot of time. Usually in hackathons, what I recommend people is that, obviously you can't start coding on the day one, right? I mean, you can only start coding your project in most cases in a hackathon on the day one, right? You can't start before that, or you can't submit a project that you built a long time ago. Usually that's the rule in hackathons, but there's no rule for creating wireframes on Figma, right? You can, before the hackathon itself, you can think of an idea, think of people who you want to build this idea for, and start creating your wireframes and everything. Like, you can start choosing your colors, your fonts, how you want to structure this application, what comes first, what comes second, the order of the screens and stuff, and how it is going to look, exactly how it's going to look, so that, when you ask that, the front end developer what is going on, they can simply just look at the design and start coding. They just have to focus on coding and making sure that the application is efficient, and, like, they're focusing more on, like, connecting the back end or the front end, instead of, like, choosing colors on the spot during the hackathon, right? So as a UI UX designer, you can make the lives of the front end engineer very, very easy, right? So these are some of the things that, help you out in a hackathon. And there's no rule for, like, not starting to design the project beforehand, unless, it's a design hackathon. Then you will have to start designing on the day the hackathon starts, right? So I mean, like, there are different kinds of hackathons as well. Like, there are hackathons usually organized by Figma, where, you can submit your Figma file or a Figma prototype for this, or just in general, like, business pitches and stuff. So you can, like, include some wireframes over there. So I think that, in such kind of competitions and hackathons, a UI UX designer is crucial, especially in these times, because literally, like, people will not use a badly designed product these days, because every app, you can literally open any app on your phone right now, which has, like, more than 100,000 installs. Every app will be having, like, a good user experience and a good UI at least. Because I mean, people won't come to your application, people won't visit your website if it doesn't look good. Okay, unless it's very necessary, like, a government website. So government websites, it's a compulsion that you'll have to visit it at some point. If, let's say, you want to build your passport or something, obviously there won't be any choice in that, in that matter, for I mean, for sure. But the thing is that, at the end of the day, it depends on, if you are, like, building a startup or a hackathon project, you need to, like, hook the user as well, and that can only be done with a good user experience and a good user interface. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much there. And like I said, UX is a very broad field. I mean, you can look at this diagram, for example. UX has a lot of different things involved in it, even the front end process, the business analysis, the business plan, the back end stuff, usability, and, like, how the information will be presented to the users, how, what kind of screens will come first, how will it be designed, which button leads to which page, all of these things, like, kind of prototyping and everything. So the visual design, the marketing aspect, everything comes under UX. Okay, but as a UX designer, who is a UX designer then, right? And do you need to learn coding to be one? So to answer the second question here, first of all, like, we'll discover who a UX designer is. But do you need to learn coding to be a UX designer? A lot of people, what they do is, what they think is that, I should get into UX because I don't want to do coding. A lot of people have this sort of thing, have this sort of conjecture that, okay, I don't want to do coding. Let me just jump into UX so that, I can, like, just dodge coding, and I can just, like, still be in tech and still earn, like, very nicely and stuff. But that is not the reason why you should jump to UX. Okay, mostly it's because, you have an eye for design, and you have an eye, you're very empathetic and stuff. But we'll get into the qualities that are required as a UX designer, but do you need coding to learn to be one? The answer is yes, you do need some sort of coding, but you don't have to code in your job. Like if you get a job as a UX designer, you won't have to code, but it is good. It is a good to have if you know at least HTML and CSS. You don't need to know JavaScript or any other programming languages, but HTML and CSS are very important. The reason why is, like, I think I have two reasons for this. Number one is that you can, first of all, you can relate to the front end developer while designing your wireframe and everything. What are the function, if you understand the functionalities of CSS, you can probably guide them on how exactly they can replicate your wireframes and your designs. The second thing is that if you have understanding of CSS, usually UX designers are tasked with using no code tools like Webflow and all. So Webflow is a tool that, if you want to create a website without having to code, then you can use Webflow. But even on Webflow, if you want to design very beautiful websites, you need to have understanding of CSS grids and how HTML works. If you want to customize it according to you, it is a good to have an understanding of HTML and CSS. And honestly, HTML is very simply, like, pretty easy, but CSS could be a bit tricky at times. And you don't need to go too much deeper, but I think I would say that having a basic understanding of CSS layouts and grids would be more than enough for a UX designer. But more into like the qualities, generally speaking, the qualities of a UX designer, there are three qualities. So the first one is empathy. What I mean by empathy is that a UX designer can envision themselves using this application, right? They have to be user centric. They need to think from the perspective of the person who this application is meant for, right? Who is the person who is going to be using this application, and then thinking from their perspective, think like just envisioning themselves in their shoes. How will what are their priorities, understanding their goals and understanding their problems and how to solve them. Only then you can be a successful UX designer. So you have to be empathetic, and it's a human trait, but you have to be very, very empathetic in order to be good at what you're doing. And then has to be resilience. So a lot of people, what they do is they just create designs once, and then they're like, if we say that, okay, this is not looking good, you should change that a little bit, they're like, no, I spent too much time designing this, so I'm not going to change it anymore. So that is the quality that won't get you far in UX. You have to be resilient. You have to be able to be iterative. If someone is giving you feedback, take it and implement it quickly. You have to be very iterative with your designs. If you know, even the biggest of the companies have a very iterative approach to design. Like the Google homepage in 2004 looked very, very different than how it looks now, right? Same with Facebook's UI used to look very, very different when it was launched by Mark Zuckerberg in 2004, and now it looks completely different. It has a dark mode as well, and it has so many different things. So you have to be iterative, and over the years it has changed a lot. And as a developer, I usually give the example of GitHub as well. I mean, you can go and see, like, how GitHub has evolved during the years. There were so many changes in the UI over the years. So it is definitely a very iterative process, and you need to be resilient in order to facilitate that. And take feedback openly. Don't get offended, don't get your ego in between this. Take feedback, understand how colors work, how things work, and then keep a learning mindset, and that will be good for you as a UX designer. And the last thing is how to communicate efficiently. So as a UX designer, you'll have to work with developers and people like that. So you will have to be able to communicate your vision of your designs to the developer so that they can replicate them pixel to pixel. Like they don't have like usually the design looks very different from the coded version, right? So that shouldn't be the case. If you're able to communicate properly, if you're able to guide the developers in a way that they're able to take decisions for making sure that the coded design is also as beautiful as the one that you have created using any of the tools like Figma or Adobe XD, which are the tools that are used by UX designers. So yeah, this is essentially, like, these are some of the qualities. And you'll have to be part of this creative process, there's a lot of things involved. You have to do a lot of research. You have to understand what your vision is. You have to articulate your ideas, how you want to present them, organize them, take inspiration from people, other people, because there's a lot of things that are going on, and you have to have that. Like, you can't create something completely different. UI. You have to sort of go with the trend and go with the things that are familiar to the users, right? You can't build something completely different, because then the user won't be familiar with this and they won't interact with your application. And you need to make sure that this process is entirely iterative. You're adding new things and you're making sure that you're improving on your previous designs based on, like, the feedback that you get from the users, from other stakeholders and everything, right? And there's the visual aspect of design is obviously very, very important as well. Now, before we get into, like, how to get started with UI and UX design, let me just see if there are any more questions that we can take. Um, uh, Okay. So, resources I will share. Is it mandatory for UX designers to learn front-end technologies? Like I said, basics of HTML and CSS would be good enough. Are there many opportunities in terms of internships for UI UX? Yes, there are a lot of opportunities within freelancing as well as within internships. So you can do a lot of things. And even if you don't do an internship now, you can still build, like, as a developer, you build projects. If you don't have an internship, you build a lot of projects, and then when you interview for internships, you show them your projects, right? So you can also do case studies in this case. So, like, case studies are like, some projects for UX designers. You can learn more about case studies by watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff. So case studies usually like break down a currently present product, or maybe just in general, like an idea that you have for a product. So you can like do a case study on Swiggy or Zomato or something like that, or the company that you're applying to. So if you want an internship at, let's say, Cred, so you can do a case study on the mobile application of Cred, and you can like break it down. You can redesign certain aspects of it. You can point out what are the aspects that could be improved, what are the things that that the users of this application would be interested in. So I mean, there are a lot of things. And honestly, see, this workshop is just like sort of a icebreaker for you. There's a lot of information here that we've been sort of talking about. So don't worry about it. Like, I mean, there's like, you just need to make you just need to be like, open minded here, and like just take in as much as you can. Obviously, you can revisit this video. It's going to be on YouTube, so if you want, you can revisit this video, and you will be able to like just get a lot of other stuff as well that you may have missed. So I would say that these are some of the things that you can do. And do the basics of HTML and CSS be enough? Yes, that would be enough, because see, CSS is very vast and you don't need to learn every bit of it. But let's just say that, as a UX designer, you also want to explore more into animation and stuff. So you can also like explore animations with CSS and everything, but you don't need to be very like advanced with CSS. Honestly, like it comes with a lot of practice. Once you start building a lot of websites and a lot of different kinds of projects, you will be able to like get a hold of it, and I think you'll be able to do a wonderful job with it. So you don't have to worry too much about it. So yeah, I think that's all the questions that I can see right now. If there are any other questions, you can like probably pull them up and I'll take them up. But yeah, if not, then let's just get started with sort of the last segment of this workshop, which is usually the most important one. How to get started with UI and UX design. And like many people have asked me this question, they are like often very worried about, okay, how do I get started, what should I do, all of that stuff. So before we like move into like what I have here, I feel that UI UX can be learned in many different ways, and it is different for different people. But there are a lot of people who would recommend you to do certificates and like watch videos on YouTube, and that is usually how you consume information, and that is probably the best way to do it as well. So I would say that you can obviously pursue the certificate by Coursera. There's a Coursera certificate by Google on UX design. So you can definitely go ahead and give it a try if you want. But let me just give you a fair warning for that. A lot of people, what they do is it's a 8 course certificate, and you'll have to complete 8 courses, and it will give you a very good introduction to UX design. But you won't be a full-fledged UX designer by the end of the course. That is just what my warning is about. And I feel that in a lot of ways, that course covers how Google does UX design. So in my opinion, you can like there are a lot of different ways, and there are a lot of different terms also. Like in the industry, a lot of different words are used and thrown around for different things. So I would say that don't limit yourself to that one course. Don't proclaim that you are a UX designer just by doing one certificate course. I would say build more projects, work with more people, do a lot of freelancing and stuff, and only then you can be sure about whether or not you're a UI UX designer. And see, believe me, you can't learn UX design just by doing courses or just by watching videos. You'll have to be practical, and you'll have to be hands on. You don't need to build big projects every time. You can build small things every day, and that's what we'll sort of discuss here. So I wrote 2 tweets about how you can get started with UX design and stuff. So in my opinion, what you can do is you can either like go to Product Hunt or the App Store or the Play Store, depending on whether you have an iOS or an Android. So just go to the either of these websites or apps, and just pick any app or website that you can find. Okay, and just go through these websites and just try to note down some of the things that you find that that have a bad user experience, or just like some sort of pain points that you can see during the during the entire user journey. So right from the login page to the end, like whatever actions that they intend you to perform, what are some of the things that could be improved and everything like that. And then you can sort of redesign these applications like you can inculcate all the pain points that you found out. You can like probably identify how to solve them using like a visual wireframe and stuff. So you can fix all of these things using tools like Figma or Adobe X. You can redesign the application, and then document all of the stuff that you're doing in blogs, or like in a Notion document or a Google Doc, whatever you're more sort of comfortable with. So I would say that this is something that you can do after you've watched a lot of videos, after you know a lot of stuff about UX. You have a basic understanding about the different words and jargons and everything. And you can also like go to, let's say, you can go to like in order to practice HTML and CSS and as well as UX design. Just in general, like just by like a lot of people underestimate Figma and all of that, and designing essentially, right? So you can just go to websites like Dribble or Behance or something. You can pick any design, any wireframe from those websites, and try to replicate it exactly in Figma. I don't know if it has a good user experience or a bad user experience. It might be, it just looks good. It just have to look good. Okay. And just try to replicate it exactly in Figma. Okay. And that way you will be able to understand how to use Figma as a tool, as well as you'll be you'll get acquainted with a lot of the functionalities of these tools, and just in general like how to create wireframes, and then you can like move towards creating your own. There are a lot of challenges as well, like daily UI challenge and Adobe 9 days UI challenge. So there's like a 9-day daily UX challenge that you can do for Adobe as well. So they ask you to create certain, like maybe like a card or like a login page or a sign up page or add to cart or something like that. So all of these things you can create. It doesn't have to be a very big project, but just like small portions of different things, and just try to be as hands on as possible. Don't just watch videos and or be like, okay, that's I know most of the stuff, but you need to be able to like implement these things as well. Okay, so that is this is just sort of my advice. And I think inspiration, taking inspiration from different trends that are going on right now by looking at well designed applications, maybe like Spotify, Cred, and all of these really well designed applications with a good design team behind them. You can try to identify how, like, what are some of the things that you like about them, or that could be improved, and just like do a bit of experimentation and show it to people. Get as much feedback as possible, like post it on Twitter, post it on LinkedIn, whatever it is that you are designing, and that way you can get feedback from different kinds of people. You can, if you don't want to, like, if you're not confident enough to do that, just find a mentor. There is this platform called ADP List. So ADP List is a platform where you can find UX design mentors. Okay, and like there are a lot of people like from very amazing companies, like the fan companies that you might know. UX designers from these companies are onboarded on this platform as mentors, so you can seek their mentorship as a mentee on this platform. It's a pretty amazing platform, and you can definitely check it out. It's called ADP List. So yeah, like try to seek as much feedback, try to seek mentorship, and that is the way to go forward. And obviously try to join as many communities as possible so that you can get feedback on your designs. You can just like interact with different people. You can give feedback to other people as well. So that would be a great experience for you as well. So yeah, I mean, just to sort of like culminate all of that stuff, like how can you do all of these things? I've created this program called 100 Days of UX under the Michi Spotlight community. So if you want, there so basically I've created a Notion document for this. I will briefly show you the Notion document as well. So basically, what I've done in this program is that I help, I've just sort of compiled different resources and different challenges for for you to learn UX. And yeah, I mean, you can just like go through all of the challenges, and you can go through all the resources, learn about different topics and stuff, and then you can do a small project of sort, just to sort of enforce your knowledge in this. So let me just quickly show you the Notion page for 100 Days of UX. So this is how it looks like. And I mean, there are different kinds of activities that are going on. There are different categories, and how you can just make sure. So what you have to do is you can just like open up. You can do it in order, or you can do it like if you have some experience with UX, you can do it like as in any frequency that you want. Um, so yeah, like just the day 4 is about laws of UX. So if you want to learn about the laws of UX, I've given you the link to refer to the different laws of UX. So you can like so I've also told people that these are the most important laws. There are many laws of UX, right? But these are the most important ones that are used in the industry very frequently. So I've told them to like just sort of understand them, try to find examples of them, just try to replicate them, like try to find examples of usage of these laws in the products that they use regularly, maybe like the Netflix app, or Instagram, or any other social media application. And then they can like create a blog or something of that sort. I've given them a resource as well, or how they can do this. So basically there's a lot of things that are already prepared in this program. It's very organized and everything. So they like I give you like very specific instructions on how to get started, very step by step stuff, and like what resources to refer, so that you don't get overwhelmed by like a resource thread. Like there are a lot of people who've created resource guides or roadmaps and everything. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I believe in doing. So we have created this proper sort of resource thing where you can just get started, go through the resources, do the challenges, post them on Twitter, get feedback from the community. And like you can also go to ADP List and like get mentorship from the mentors as well. So this is how you can get started, and there's a lot of things that are coming up. Like a lot of things like design systems, designing for mobile first design, responsive design. So there's just too much stuff inside of UX itself. And like obviously it can't all be covered in a workshop, right? So this is just like sort of way to help you all get started. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this session from my end. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Otherwise, we can get started with other stuff.
Okay, so Priya Malik says, what are some good resources to get started with UI UX? I think Vaishnavi pretty much mentioned a lot of resources.
Yeah. So you can either go to like the Coursera certificate, or you can like just go through a lot of YouTube videos on UX and like different topics of UX. Or alternatively, you can also go through the 100 days of UX, the Notion website that I've created, and that will give you like proper resources in an organized format. Then there's another question: do UI UX integrated in our project ensure? Wait,
Sorry,
ensure its
sorry.
user compatibility. See, honestly, it's more about how you sort of look at it. It's very subjective what you're saying over here. Obviously, if you have see, there is UI UX in every project. There is a UI in almost every front end project. I won't say every project, but every front end project, there is a UI, right? And there is a user experience as well. Even though it could be a bad user experience, it could be a good user experience, it could be a neutral one. So the thing is that how you work towards making it a good or a positive user experience is how you will ensure its user compatibility. So I hope that sort of answers your question there. um
Abhishek
I'm
says,
new
I am
to
new in UI UX. Can you guide him a little
Right.
bit?
So a lot of people have asked me this question, and I usually point them towards the 100 Days of UX program. Although, like, I mean, you can watch this video right from the start so that you can get an understanding of whether this is for you or not. Okay. And then you can understand, okay, how to get started and like why is it important and stuff. So I hope that, this video will guide you. Can we
Uh,
make the
okay,
100
so
Days of
Akriti says,
UX?
can we
Yeah, yeah. You can read the question. That's fine.
All right. Can we make the 100 days of UX as our first step in UI UX? Like she's trying to say, can she get started with that? Can she use it as a base to get
Yes,
started
you
with
can
UI and
definitely do
UX?
that because it is for beginners itself. I've created all of these challenges keeping in mind the beginners that I've interacted with over the years. So you can get started with UX using this guide itself. Like you don't have to go anywhere else. But yeah, like if you want, you can also get started with the Coursera certificate because it has a lot of videos and stuff. But I am pretty sure that a lot of people they don't end up completing their online courses. So I would say that if you want to be more hands-on and like we have a lot of accountability as well. We try to do a one challenge every day. You don't have to do it consecutively, like every single day, but you can like do 2 to 3 challenges every week or something like that, and that will be like more than enough for you. So I would say that you can definitely use it as a base. So don't worry about that.
PH says, I'm a final year BTech student. Can I start learning UI and UX now?
See, you can start learning anything at any time in your life. People I've seen people do learn to code at 50 years old. So you can definitely do anything right now. You're in final year, and I'm in final year as well. Okay, and see the thing is that a lot of things that I'm learning, like I started learning blockchain very recently. I'm not complaining about there are so many people who already know much more than me. See, you have your own experience, you have your own journey. So just like you can start at any point. It's better to be late than never actually even doing it. Right. So I would say that don't find excuses. Don't think that, okay, I'm in final year. How can I even start with this? Don't give those excuses to yourself. Just start. Just do it. Yeah.
Okay. So Chintan Patel says, don't you think front-end developer can do UX stuff? Because at the end, they are the ones who code UI and UX.
See, if you like, I mean, I know that it would be a bit difficult to understand from a student perspective that, a front end developer doing these stuff as well. See, the thing is that the reason why there's a need of a UX designer is that a front end developer, like front end development itself, is a very very broad field. You have to focus on so many different things. You need to make sure that the architecture of your front end application is, properly built. You can't do you can't just, stop and also think about the UX as well. Obviously you'll have to think about UX as a front end developer, but you can't be completely devoted to the UX, or you can't completely be devoted to making sure that the application is user friendly and you're not deviating from it. A lot of times front end developers, they get sort of they get in the flow, and then they just start doing what is best, as for the code architecture. So they sort of think about things in terms of coding, not in terms of like the user or anything. So you that is like the case in most of the cases. What I feel is that, a UX designer is a person who completely focuses on the user, and they are like the people who are, they are the ones who bring in, who identify a lot of different things. As a UX designer, you have to sit in UX interviews, you have to do user interviews, and you have to interview people as well, and you have to take their feedback, give it to the product team, then try to redesign and improve and reiterate. So you can't do all of that stuff by like, you can't do all of that stuff and then do coding. So just imagine this, that you are a front end developer at Instagram, right? And you want to redesign the entire thing, and you will have to think about the 1 billion or how many users there are on Instagram. And obviously you can't do that on your own as a front end engineer. You have to think about the code, and you have to think about whether the code has bugs, or making sure that it passes all the testing stuff. You already have too much on your mind. So the UX designer sort of handles all of the research part of things and redesigning part of things. There are different roles within UX itself, like a UX writer. All the text that you see on, your Twitter and all your stuff, apart from the tweets and the content that is put on the feed. Apart from that, all of the stuff, the empty stage. Okay, oops, we can't deliver your order on Swiggy, like, or oops, we can't reach you right now, our best minds are working on it. This is like the text on Swiggy, if it's not like working or something. So all that, even the minutest of details, is handled by a separate person. And the reason is because it's a very, like, it might seem like it's just an app, okay, but there's a lot of people involved in this application, and only because of that it's working so seamlessly. So I would say that, this is why a UX designer is important, and that's why a front end engineer can't do the same things. How can we join our community of UI UX? You can start by joining Michi Spotlight, if that is, if you're interested in that, because we are majorly a community for UI UX designers. We have a lot of UI UX designers in our community. There's also a community in India called Design and Code. Amazing community. They also talk about, the two aspects in tandem. And there are like other communities like Design Buddies and Friends of Figma, and even the Adobe communities you can join on Discord. So there are a lot of stuff that you can do. So I hope that, this is helpful. I can like probably if you go to the 100 days of UX sort of website, on the first day, I have actually added a certain links to the communities that, the UX communities that you can join. I think it's not on this one. Maybe it's on the second one, but yeah, it's on the second day. I have it's a list of UX design communities you should join ASAP. So there's 10K designers, design buddies, a lot of other stuff. So you can check this out as well. And yeah. Uh,
All right. So I think that's pretty much all the questions we had till now.
okay.
I'm sorry, were you saying something? Your voice was
No, no,
breaking.
I was just saying if there are any other questions. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the questions we had till now. So thank you so much everyone for joining, and thank you for being such an interactive audience. So the winners of the giveaway would be announced on our Instagram handle. So make sure to follow us on Instagram. Make sure to follow GDSC IGD2W on Instagram, and we hope you enjoyed the session, and we hope it was very very informative for you. Before ending the stream, we have one last question from Akriti. She says, "Do all companies have UI UX designers?"
So, no, obviously not, because a lot of the companies also are service based companies. So service based companies have no use for UI UX designers. Only companies that have some sort of product or some sort of software product have a UI UX designer. There's also another role called product designer. So product designer is a very like it kind of can be like quite vague. So a product designer can also be present in a company that is making perfumes, right? So a perfume is a product for that company, and a product designer will be working on that kind of product. So I would say that all the product based company, every company that gives a product to like has a product for like revenue or anything of that sort, those companies usually do have, especially if they are like based on software, they do have a UI UX designer. Especially like if you see any other companies that don't have a good UI or a good user experience, or you don't like using their application or something, they probably don't have a UI UX designer. So yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. It was amazing, amazing having you, and we surely learned a lot. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Uh, I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye, guys.